So if you're a car lover like I am, and you hear the term EV, you think of one thing, and that's probably appliance. You see, it's like a washing machine or a microwave in that you use it up for a while and then you throw it away. And I'm not the only one who thinks that, because most new EVs will lose 50% of their value in the first year, which means that it's practically impossible to make money flipping a used EV, except for one example, and it's this car right here.
Welcome, everyone, to the 2010 Tesla Roadster. And it's the first car Tesla ever made. And yes, it looks very similar to a mid-2000s Lotus Elise because that's what this car is based on. Tesla stretched the chassis, installed a state-of-the-art electric motor and battery pack in the center behind the driver, and made the body panels out of lightweight but incredibly strong carbon fiber. This meant that the Roadster could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.7 seconds, a full second quicker than the Lotus it was based on. While Tesla has come a long way in the last decade, the original Roadster has gained a bit of a cult following, with prices for pristine examples soaring over $200,000. But this one is far from a pristine example. This Tesla was neglected, questionably modified, and sold for just $35,000 because the previous owner couldn't get it to charge. But there's one thing setting this car apart from your garden variety Roadster, and it's that this car was imported from Japan. And it was one of the first dozen cars brought to Japan by Tesla, a batch of vehicles they called the Signature 12, with each car showcasing a plaque in its interior with a customized slogan from its original owner. This 5,000-mile car is a total gamble, but since we actually got the car to charge and run properly as soon as it got here, it may pay off in a big way. Now that means with a bit of elbow grease by our resident car detailing and restoration expert Rex, we could potentially triple or even quadruple our investment. And we'd be doing this with the support of G-Technic, a company that is the best in the business when it comes to high-end and DIY detailing products. And if you want to replicate these results at home, every product we use will be available to buy in the links in the description below the video.
My name is Tavarish, and this is Art of the Flip.
Every wash starts with a full decon, meaning decontamination wash. It's important to get all the loose dirt and grime off a car before you can start thinking of attacking the paintwork with anything more abrasive. And the best way to start is by cleaning the dirtiest things on the car first, the wheels and the tires. Rex breaks out iron and fallout remover and a sprayer filled with diluted G-Wash on the Tesla's staggered wheels, using a soft bristle brush to agitate the dirt buildup on the sidewall. After that's left to set for a few moments, he uses a pressure washer to blast the loose dirt away, revealing a Roadster wheel and tire in remarkably good shape for its age, with no real nicks or curb rash to speak of. The next step is to give the car a light rinse with a pressure washer. Rex, being the professional he is, pays close attention not to get overspray in the car's interior, because the car wasn't bought with the top, although we will address that particular problem later. There are plenty of techniques for rinsing. Some do a top-down approach and some attack the dirtiest parts first, but as long as you cover all the necessary areas of the car and don't leave any loose grime and debris, you can move on to the next step, which I think is the most satisfying, the foam wash. With a foam cannon loaded onto the pressure washer, Rex douses the Roadster with G-Wash. What this step does, other than make the car look like it's about to experience the world's closest shave, is clean the oils off the paint surface. The foam acts like a mild agitator, and because it suds like soap in a washing machine on a spin cycle, the actual cleaning effect is multiplied before you ever put your hands on the car. After allowing the foam to settle a bit on the paint to lubricate it, Rex uses the WM2 microfiber wash mitt with light pressure to clean the stuck dirt, oil, and old wax or sealant on the Tesla's paintwork. Now, the point of a decontamination wash primarily is to get the paint to a baseline level of cleanliness, to see what we're actually working with and what the next step in the detailing process should be. It's not uncommon to uncover scratches, swirls, and haze that weren't visible before. After the agitation phase, Rex thoroughly rinses the foam off. Now, we are fortunate that we can do this in a closed, climate-controlled environment, but if you're doing this outside, make sure to avoid any sources of direct sunlight, which could dry out the soap prematurely and leave water stains that you'll have to get out before moving on to later steps. And if you're in a place with hard water, a water softener is highly recommended. Now here's a step that often gets missed. Rex applies iron and fallout remover to the body of the car to make sure that iron particles, like the ones that come off your brakes, don't stick to your paint. Now make sure you're in a well-ventilated area when you do this step, because when the iron reacts with the cleaner, it can produce a strong smell, kind of like rotten eggs. But the way I see it, you know it's working and you won't be running the risk of rubbing iron into your paint. After a final rinse, a microfiber drying towel is used to soak up whatever is on the surface. Even after everything that was done, there can still be dirt hiding in the car's bodywork. So a high-pile, thick microfiber is used to gather up whatever's left behind without marring the paint beneath. And what we found were scratches on the paint, hazy headlights, carbon fiber bodywork that was incredibly dull, and another problem that we couldn't ignore anymore. Now, one big issue of sports cars of this age is rock chips. And that's why on a lot of high-dollar cars, like this Tesla Roadster, a layer of paint protective film, or PPF, was applied to protect the vulnerable paint underneath. Unfortunately, it's not a permanent solution, and over time, it can yellow, become brittle, and actually harm and discolor the paint underneath, which was starting to happen on our car. So the first priority is to remove the film in the least destructive way possible. Rex used a steam machine and a plastic scraping tool to first heat up the panel and film and try to lift up the edge. Doing this carefully will give the best chance of peeling off the PPF in one big chunk, rather than dealing with a brittle mess that has to be removed in a million pieces. Working slowly from the edge and pulling perpendicular to the surface of the car is the best way to do it, making sure the panel doesn't get too cold. Rex then repeats the process on the side of the car. And what you may notice is that the PPF leaves behind some glue on the paintwork. This is totally normal, and removal just requires a plastic scraper and, you guessed it, more elbow grease. And while it's made to resist impact and be pliable, this is a layer of vinyl that has been exposed to the elements for more than 10 years. So it's not in the best shape and could come apart at any moment. Now this is where it starts to get difficult and brittle. The front bumper, no matter how much heat and water is thrown at it, is coming off slowly and in very tiny pieces. Now, if you're attempting this at home, it's easy to get discouraged at this point because it's tedious and it saps all the oils from your fingers, leaving them dry and irritated. But I guarantee you that at the end of this ordeal, it'll be totally worth it, even though I don't think Rex agrees at this particular point in time. With all of the film finally off the car, Rex finally rests his battered hands and heads to the dry slab, where the next part of the cleaning is about to take place. One thing that buyers look for is attention to detail. And if we want big money for this car, we have to leave no stone unturned in the cleaning process, which is why dry ice cleaning is not only necessary to restore this Roadster, it's likely what's going to set this car apart from any other Tesla on sale today. Rex removes the wheels with help from Scott Ailes, the owner of the Dry Slab and Dryce Nation, a platform that helps people start their own dry ice cleaning business and gives them the tools to clean cars on a molecular level. We also managed to find a soft top for the Roadster so no debris would make its way into the car's leather interior, small as it may be. Dry ice is a magic material that does some pretty insane things. It's a solid form of CO2, or carbon dioxide, which is what we breathe out when we exhale. But unlike regular ice that is made of H2O, dry ice sublimates directly from a solid into a gas. And it's colder, much colder than the ice in your fridge. It reaches about negative 110 degrees Fahrenheit or negative 78 degrees Celsius. And when you put it in a machine like the ICS 030 Evo, like Scott is using here that breaks it into tiny pellets and injects it into a stream of dried compressed air, it has some truly amazing results. So obviously, we had to remove the fake Brembo caliper covers from the car, revealing some fairly pristine AP racing calipers underneath. It's always surprising to me why owners of a car as high profile as this need to fake upgraded parts on it. The dry ice machine can make short work of anything you put in front of it, being able to strip paint and undercoating, but also having the ability to clean interiors and sensitive areas of the car by dialing in the settings directly on the machine. This is because it cleans in two ways. First, there's the actual force of the tiny dry ice pellets hitting the part and removing dirt. Think of it as a much less abrasive sandblaster without all the sand left over. The second way is that the dry ice, as soon as it hits the part, expands to thousands of times its size in gas form, loosening and removing dirt even more. This process is called sublimation, and it's the key to dry ice leaving behind a surface that's clean on a molecular level. You can literally eat off the part you just cleaned. It's safe on rubber, all kinds of metal, plastics, wiring, leather, and nearly anything else you'd encounter in a car, although it may eat up certain open cell foam, so it still pays to be careful and plan out a cleaning route when using a machine like this. After a short while, the suspension and brake components of the Roadster look like they just rolled off the factory floor. The difference is absolutely night and day and worth every penny, because although the cost for a dry ice cleaning can range between $150 to $350 an hour, you'll certainly get that money back and more at sale time. We managed to find a carbon fiber vent that was missing from the car when we first got it, and Rex installs it from the inside of the wheel well. Scott also gives the wheels and tires some attention and cleans the inner barrels, restoring them to an as-new factory fresh condition in just minutes. And the process is repeated on all four corners. One quick thing about the rear brakes, however, you'll see that the pad isn't making complete contact with the rotor face, and it's leaving behind a lightly rusty ring. That isn't because of neglect, that's simply Tesla's design for the car. The last part before the polishing phase can begin is clay barring the paint. Now what a clay bar is, in essence, is like a ball of Play-Doh that sucks up any small dirt or debris still left in the paintwork not visible by eye. So if you rub your hand over the paint and it still feels like sandpaper, a clay bar is a necessary step to make sure you have a smooth, clean base before you put any compound or polish on top. And the process for clay barring is very simple. Just wet the surface with water or clay lube and rub the clay bar back and forth with light pressure until the surface feels smooth to the touch. It's important to knead the clay between panels to make sure no contaminants are making it back to the paint. And if it falls on the floor, throw it away. Or if you're making a YouTube video about how to detail a car, cut that part out of the video. With the surface finally clean, decontaminated, and clear of all silicates and imperfections, we can apply some heavy cut compound to a 3-inch Rupes wool pad on a Mirka cordless 3-inch dual action polisher to remove the top layer of scratches from the Tesla's paintwork. If the paint on a car is like hair, then the compounding step is the initial haircut. When paint is scratched, tiny peaks and valleys are formed in the paint surface that can reflect light in an unintended way. This is what you're seeing when paint has holograms or swirl marks. Compounding takes off a tiny layer of paint, and in this case, clear coat, allowing the paint underneath to be level, and it makes the next steps way more simple. Now everyone has their way of applying compound and polish, but Rex's method here seems to work pretty well. He puts 4 small globs of compound directly on the pad, then dabs the pad onto the paint several times in the projected work area. Not only does this let him see where he needs to go, but it also keeps the panel well lubricated with enough product for the machine to do its work. And as with anything that has an electric motor, it's important to let it and the compound do the work, meaning light pressure is applied. It is much, much better to have to redo a panel than run the risk of burning through the paint because too much pressure is applied to an overheated panel. The excess compound is wiped off with a microfiber towel, and the process is finished with a larger corded machine, the Rupes LHR 15V, and a 5-inch yellow foam pad. But instead of compound, a polish is used to remove the micro scratches that the compound may have left behind. And the same goes for the headlight, but special care needs to be taken because, unlike the paint, the headlight lenses are made of plastic and can warp if too much heat is applied. It's one of the most satisfying results you can have because after a few passes with the DA, the headlights can go from yellow and hazy to brand new. The front hood still has some PPF on it, so that's removed and the carbon fiber is cleaned with the same process that the rest of the car got. But speaking of carbon fiber, we managed to find a full carbon fiber top for the Roadster, making it whole again and much more water resistant. Compound and polish is applied, and you can really see a deep shine reflect on the weave underneath the clear coat and gel coat. And unlike most carbon fiber exposed weaves, this one has a funky pattern and color that really sets it apart from other sports cars of the era. With the exterior polished, the whole car is wiped down with a clean microfiber towel. And we're finally onto the last step of the restoration, which is preservation. Rex ceramic coats the Roadster with crystal serum light. What this does is adds a layer of protection that chemically bonds to the paint underneath, and makes water spots, tree sap, and loose dirt much easier to remove in future washes. And now, the only things left are the small details. But with any project car, the details are often the most time-consuming. But once those are done, there's nothing left to it. This car is complete. I can't believe this is the same car we started with. This Tesla went from one of the most neglected examples to one of the cleanest on the market, with amazing originality, pedigree, and cool factor. And all it took was some elbow grease, some amazing products, and this awesome supercar canvas. Now, let's get to the numbers. We bought this car for $35,000 with all of its issues. Cost of materials was about $350. A good used carbon fiber roof, $5,000. The dry ice cleaning was $1,000. And miscellaneous missing trim, $500. Add in a new period correct radio at $150, and 22 hours of sweat equity mean that this Tesla Roadster owes us $42,000. But based on the current market, with the exclusivity of this car being one of the first 12 that went to Japan, and the insanely low miles on this particular example, we can feel confident in asking $150,000 at sale time. And this goes to show that even an old EV can make a tidy profit if you find the right one and aren't afraid to get your hands dirty. Now, if you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see more projects get the art of the flip treatment. See you later.